All right, guys, welcome back to class. Today we are going to continue to do some work in our informational text. Yesterday you should have read informational text, so we are going to continue deciphering details and ideas that are inside of these types of texts. So, today's learning goals and what you're going to be doing or learning is that at the end of this module, you will know that stories pack a lot of power. And you will also understand that as readers, you should consider the imaginative power that stories have on people. And at the end of this module or lesson, you will be able to write an appropriate response to a nonfiction text expressing the imaginative power stories have. So let's go ahead and get started with our lesson. So as a reminder, we are going to be today talking about our 5 senses. And those are vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. I want you guys to look at the following prompt. Now, in our previous lesson, which was yesterday's lesson, we learned that vivid metaphors stimulate the sensory cortex of the brain. So this means that in the article that you read yesterday, one of the key ideas that you should have learned is that vivid metaphors simulate the sensory cortex of the brain. So that means that when I read a metaphor that is very vivid, it paints a picture in my mind and it activates the sensory cortex of my brain. So when I read something that has a vivid metaphor, the sensory cortex in my brain activates. One example of a vivid metaphor would be something like, he is a shining star. Her long hair was a flowing golden river. Tom's eyes were ice as he stared at her. The children were flowers grown in concrete gardens. So, as you can see, there's a lot of descriptive language in these examples. And it's comparing two things without using like or as. So it's comparing the man to a shining star. It's comparing her hair to a flowing golden river. But it's using vivid metaphors with sensory language. Flowing golden river. And this is going to activate my vision or my hearing or my smell or my taste or my touch, which is sensory, and it's going to activate this portion of my brain, my sensory cortex. So I want you guys to ask yourselves, which sense out of these is most important to stimulate or evoke in writing? So which sense is most important to stimulate or evoke in writing? So let's take a look at our focusing question for today's lesson. Our focusing question is, how do stories help us make sense of ourselves and the world? And our content framing question and our organized stage is, what's happening in the man made of words? So as you can see, we're going to be reading another article, The Man Made of Words, and you're going to be answering what's actually happening in this article. And in order to do that, you need to organize the thoughts or the ideas that are inside of the article. So let's go ahead and continue to talk about what stories do for us. So in the last lesson, we examined the potential social power that stories hold. And we talked about we read about how they help humans navigate social situations. So I might read an article and it might help me navigate a social situation in my own life. Or it might help me become more empathetic to others, which means that maybe if I read an article about how children are, getting sick in a particular part of the world, and it tells me and explains to me why those children are getting sick, that might make me more empathetic towards that party of people. And we also talked about how stories help us understand different views of the world, because not everyone looks at the world the same. But in this lesson, you are going to read an excerpt, which is just a small piece of an article from N. Scott Momaday's The Man Made of Words. And you are going to begin to understand the imaginative power of stories. So first things first, I want you guys to add these words into your vocabulary journal. You have utterance, distilled, recede. So on handout 24A, we are going to read an excerpt from The Man Made of Words and complete the handout. But before we complete the handout, I want to give you guys a little bit of background about the author of this article. So N. Scott Momaday, he is a member of the Kiowa, a Native American tribe, and they migrated to what is currently known as Oklahoma from Montana in the 19th century. So he is a member of the Kiowa, which is a Native American tribe, and they migrated, or they came from Oklahoma. They came to Oklahoma from Montana. Okay. So in our excerpt, or our handout for 24A, the article is actually on the handout. So here's the excerpt here, and it starts off with, I want to try to put several different ideas together this morning. And in the process, I hope to indicate something about the nature of the relationship between language and experience. And you will continue to read. Notice that some of the words are in bold. This means that you need to be defining these unfamiliar words or any other words that may be unfamiliar to you within this excerpt before you go on to reading the rest of the article. So here's the article. And it ends here, okay? So now, once you have read that article and identified those words that you don't understand, I now want you guys to start doing a notice and wonder. We've done this before. So what I want to ask you guys is, what do you notice about the text? Based on the title, what do you think the text will be about? And I want you to look up any words of anything that you don't understand. After you have read, I want you guys to answer some questions about what you've read. Reflect on your reading. What was it about? How do you feel about what you read? Did you learn anything new? Then I want you guys to annotate this article for your own understanding. And I want you guys to annotate indicating Momaday's purpose for speaking. What is the main topic of the speech? What is his claim about the topic? How does he feel about the topic? And what leads him to make that claim? I want you to use your annotations to create a retelling of the first paragraph. So you're going to read the first paragraph, which is here, and using in your own words, explain above the 4 bullet points and include one direct quote. So you're going to read this first paragraph, and you're going to write Momaday's purpose for speaking after you've read. What is the main topic of the speech? What is his claim about the topic? What does he think about the topic? And what leads him to make the claim? You will write those in bullet points and share out in the discussion board. After we've done that, guys, I want us to continue to break down this text. So I want to know what happens in the essay. What events occur? Who, What figures appear in the essay? What are they? Who are they talking about? And when we talk about figures, we could be talking about other people. When does the essay take place? And where? Where is Mama Day, the narrator, in the essay? What ideas does Mama Day repeatedly discuss in The Man-Made of Words? What does he repeatedly talk about? And how does your chosen sense relate to your reading of the article? So when we talk about your chosen sense, remember that at the beginning of the lesson, I asked you guys to answer which sense is the most important to stimulating or evoking in writing. So whichever sense that you chose, I want to know how your chosen sense relates to the reading of the article. Then I want us to read aloud the last paragraph of the text. So I'm going to read that to you guys, the last paragraph. But let me get back to the matter of storytelling. I must have taken part in that old migration of the Kiowas from the Yellowstone to the southern plains, for I have seen antelope bounding in the tall grass near the Bighorn River, and I have seen the ghost forests in the Black Hills. Once I saw the red cliffs of Palo Duro Canyon. I was with those who were camped in the Wichita Mountains when the stars fell. You are very old, I said, and you have seen many things. Yes, I imagine that I have, she replied. Then she turned slowly around, nodding once, and receded into the language I had made. And then I imagined that I was alone in the room. So when you read this article, guys, or that last paragraph, what might Mama Day mean when he says that we are what we imagine? What might it mean to imagine who and what, and that we are? How are the language and stories related to that imagining? I want you guys to write a reflective paragraph about what those lines mean. To finish up, I want us to talk about our content framing question, and we are in our organized stage. What's happening in the Man-Made of Words? What's happening? And please be detailed using textual evidence. For you all's homework, I want you to reread the essay, and you're doing this because we are going to do some more reading of this essay in the next lesson, and it's going to be a close reading. So you guys want to make sure that you are reading the article as many times as possible so that you can understand it to the best of your ability. All right, guys, let's move on to our vocabulary deep dive for today. Today, I want you guys to complete a graffiti wall, and you're going to write down all the words that help you imagine Kosan. Kosan is from the article, so I want you to write down all of the words that help you imagine Kosan. And then write a simile to express your understanding of Kosa. We're doing this because I want you guys to dig deeper into the words. I want you to consider why the author chose these words to describe Kosan. Remember that words have denotations. Denotations which are literal definitions found in the dictionary. So if I go look up something, it's going to give me the literal definition of what that actually is. But I want you guys to be aware that words also have connotations. Now, connotations are ideas or feelings that words evoke. By looking at the connotations of venerable or whimsy and conjure, you should be able to understand the author's impressions of Kosan. So I want you guys to explore these words here. Record these definitions and then record the ideas or the feelings that they invoke in your vocabulary journals. Remember that word choice is very important in storytelling, guys. And because the connotations of a word can drastically shape readers' impressions of events, places, and characters, we must be careful when we are writing. For today's exit ticket, I want you guys to identify an example in the text that we just read where they used a descriptive word to convey a particular detail about Khoisan, and explain why the author chose that descriptive word. So for example, why might the author have chosen the word venerable instead of honorable, or whimsy instead of idea, or conjure instead of produce? Why would he have chosen those particular words instead of the other? All right, guys, so that's going to be it for today's assignment. Again, if you have any help, questions, or concerns, please come to office hours. The links are all in Schoology. Right now, we are doing universal screening, so please make sure that you are checking your emails so that you can see when you need to come to the small groups link so that you can take your universal screening test. All right, guys, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.